Listen, the world doesn't reward the loudest person in the room. It rewards the one who controls the room without saying a word. Most people are out here bleeding their emotions like open wounds, letting every insult or slight dictate their next move. They're predictable. And in the game of power, being predictable is a death sentence. Machiavelli taught us that it is much safer to be feared than loved. But you can't be feared if you're constantly explaining yourself like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. The average person is a slave to their impulses. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they scream. Someone leaves a mean comment, they type a paragraph. Someone questions their choices, they provide a full PowerPoint presentation on why they did what they did. This is weakness disguised as standing up for yourself. Real power is the ability to sit in the fire and not even blink. It's about understanding that your attention is the most valuable currency you own, and the second you spend it on an enemy, they've already robbed you. Niccolo Machiavelli observed that the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. If you're constantly reacting, you aren't the lion or the fox, you're the prey. You're giving away your blueprint. You're showing everyone exactly where it hurts and how to make you dance. To win, you have to become a black hole where their provocations go to die. No flicker in your eyes, no tremor in your voice, no justification for your existence. If you're done being the victim and you're ready to take what's yours, drop a comment with power before we get into the deep stuff. Before we dive into the mechanics, understand this. Your enemies aren't looking for a debate. They're looking for a handle. They want a piece of your mind, so they can own a piece of your soul. If you give them a reaction, you give them a map of your insecurities. Now let's look at the first and most dangerous mistake you're probably making right now. The trap of reaction. Every time you react to someone's provocation, you are handing them the leash. Think about that coworker who makes a slick comment about your work in front of the boss. Your gut wants to snap back, to defend your honor, to prove them wrong. That's exactly what they want. They want to see you sweat because it makes you look unstable and small. Machiavelli knew that men are so simple-minded and so much dominated by their immediate needs that a deceitful man will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived. When you react, you are the one being deceived into believing the insult matters. Most people think standing your ground means bark for bark. They're wrong. Imagine you're at a family dinner and a relative brings up your past failures just to see you squirm. If you get angry, you've just confirmed that the failure still haunts you. You've given them a button they can press whenever they're bored. You are essentially telling them, "Here is how to hurt me." Machiavelli taught that people judge by the eyes rather than by the hands. If you look rattled, you are rattled. Your internal state doesn't matter. The perception of your weakness is what your enemies will feast on. The way to break this cycle is to treat their jab like it's invisible. When they look at you for a reaction and find only a blank stare, or better yet a slight bored smile, the power dynamic flips instantly. They become the one who looks desperate for attention. They are the ones swinging at ghosts, losing their balance while you remain a statue. Think about the street level. If a bully shouts at you and you keep walking like they're a stray dog barking at a car, who looks more powerful, the dog or the car? By refusing to engage, you strip them of their influence. They want a spark to start a fire. Don't give them a single dry leaf. Your tilance is the ultimate weapon because it leaves them guessing. Are you plotting? Do you know something they don't? Are you so far above them that their words don't even reach your ears? That uncertainty is where fear is born. That's your strategic maneuver to keep your dignity intact while they lose theirs. Once you've mastered the art of holding your tongue when provoked, you have to face the second biggest leak in your power: your mouth. Most people think they are winning an argument when they are actually just auditioning for someone else's approval. They pour out their reasons like they're standing in front of a judge, not realizing that in the real world, nobody is impartial. Everyone is looking for a way to use your words against you. Now that you've learned to kill the reaction, you have to learn to bury the evidence. Silence is a shield. But the moment you start explaining, you're dropping that shield and inviting a stab to the gut. Here is how you stop being an open book for people who don't even deserve to read the cover. Explaining yourself is just a polite way of apologizing for your existence. When you start justifying your decisions, why you took that promotion, why you cut someone off, why you changed your mind, you are subconsciously telling the world that they are your judge. Machiavelli taught that a prince must have no other objective and no other thought but war and its methods and discipline. In your life, the war is for your autonomy. The second you explain, you've surrendered your rank. Imagine you finally decide to cut off a friend who's been a snake in the grass. They confront you, demanding to know why you're being cold or why you didn't invite them to your latest move. Your instinct is to list their crimes, to tell them how they hurt you, to prove your right to walk away. Stop. If you do that, you've given them a chance to argue, to gaslight you, and to manipulate your emotions. You've turned a firm boundary into a negotiation. Instead, give them nothing. A simple "I've moved on," or even total silence, is a closed vault. By refusing to elaborate, you maintain your mystique and your authority. Think about the boss who asks why you're leaving for a better opportunity. If you vent about the bad coffee and the low pay, you've just given them ammunition to call your next employer and label you difficult. If you simply say, "It's time for a change," and leave it at that, you remain an enigma. Machiavelli knew that the common people are always taken by appearances and by the results of an event. They don't need to know the why, they only need to see the what. When you stop explaining, you stop being a target. People can't deconstruct a logic they don't have access to. They can't find a hole in your story if you haven't told one. This isn't about being rude, it's about being sovereign. You are the CEO of your life, and the CEO doesn't explain the vision to the janitor. This is your untraceable path to keeping your plans under wraps while everyone else is busy talking themselves into a corner. Once you stop explaining your moves, you start living in a world where your word is final. But there's one more level to this game. It's not enough to just keep your mouth shut. You have to know when to treat the people around you like they aren't even there. Most people think they have to settle the score or get the last word to win. They don't realize that by even acknowledging a hater, they're giving that person a seat at their table. Silence is your shield, but ignoring is your sword. If you're still looking at their stories, still checking their pages, or still wondering what they're saying about you, you haven't won. You're just a prisoner who isn't talking. Here is how you perform the ultimate vanishing act on anyone trying to disturb your peace. The art of selective ignoring. Machiavelli said that men should either be treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries. For heavy ones they cannot. Most people stay in the middle. They throw slight injuries, petty arguments, passive-aggressive texts, or checking in just to see if you're still mad. When you engage with these small jabs, you're giving them the fuel to keep the fire burning. The most devastating heavy injury you can deal to a narcissist or a snake is to act like they are a ghost. You don't hate them. You have no opinion of them at all. Think about that person in your circle who constantly drains your energy with their drama or tries to undermine you with backhanded compliments during a night out. They are starving for your attention. They feed on your "Are we good?" or your "Why did you say that?" If you fight them, you've descended to their level. You've let them drag you into the mud. Instead, practice the art of the blank space. If they text you something provocative, don't leave them on read. Leave them on unseen. If they speak to you in a group, look through them like they're made of glass and keep the conversation moving with someone else. In the streets, if a crazy man is shouting at everyone on the corner, the smartest person is the one who doesn't even turn their head. The second you look, he's got you. Your life is no different. Machiavelli knew that the great majority of mankind are satisfied with appearances as though they were realities. If you appear to have forgotten someone who exists to the rest of the world, and eventually to them, they have ceased to exist. This isn't about being immature. It's about energy management. Every second you spend thinking about a solution to a toxic person is a second you aren't building your empire. When you ignore them entirely, don't look at them, don't reply to their bait, don't even let their name cross your lips, they lose their target. They will scramble, they will get louder, and eventually they will crumble because they have no power over a ghost. This is your unshakable bypass to neutralizing an enemy without ever wasting a single heartbeat. Once you've made your enemies invisible, you have to look at the people who are still in your circle. Most of them think they own your time because you've been too nice or too reliable. They think they can summon you with a vibration in your pocket. If you're always there, you're just furniture. You're part of the background. To be a master of your own life, you have to stop being the person who always picks up on the first ring. The greatest trick a leader can play is making people wonder if they'll ever see them again. If you're everywhere, you're nowhere. If you're always reachable, you're common. And in the game of power, the common are always the first to be exploited. Here is how you turn your presence into a high-priced luxury that people have to earn. Being too available makes you a commodity, and commodities are cheap. Machiavelli observed that men are so simple and so much governed by present necessities that those who deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. When you are always on call, you are deceiving yourself into thinking you're being helpful. In reality, you're just training people to treat you like a tool they can pick up and drop whenever they feel like it. Think about that friend or partner who only hits you up when their main plan falls through or when they need a favor. Usually, you drop everything to show you're a ride or die. Stop doing that. By being the good guy who is always waiting in the wings, you've murdered your own mystery. You've told them your time has zero value. Machiavelli knew that it is much safer to be feared than loved, and nobody fears losing someone who is always standing right there. The way to fix this is to cultivate a strategic absence. Start leaving your phone in the other room. Let the call go to voicemail. Don't reply to the "what are you doing" text for 5 hours or 5 days. When you finally do surface, don't apologize. Don't explain where you were. Just be briefly pleasant and then vanish again. This creates a vacuum. In that vacuum, people start to respect you because they realize your life doesn't revolve around them. In the streets, the person who is always hanging out on the corner is the one who gets searched by the cops and disrespected by the crew. The person who only shows up when there's a real move to be made is the one people stand up for when they walk into the room. This is your prestige maneuver to force the world to realize your worth through the silence you leave behind. When they finally do get a piece of your time, they'll treat it like gold because they know how easily it can disappear. Once you've made yourself a ghost and reclaimed your time, you're going to feel a pull. It's the old version of you, the one that wants to be liked and understood, trying to drag you back into the gutter. Most people are addicted to the pat on the back. They want the world to tell them they're doing a good job. But in the game of power, if you're waiting for a good job from the crowd, you've already put them in charge of your paycheck and your peace. Validation is a drug, and your enemies are the dealers. If you need their yes to feel big, they can turn you into a dwarf whenever they want. To be a master, you have to kill the part of you that cares what the gallery thinks. Here is how you become a stone wall that no insult or praise can move. Crush the need for approval. The moment you seek approval, you've handed someone else the crown. Machiavelli taught that it is unnecessary for a prince to have all the good qualities, but it is very necessary to appear to have them. Most people are paralyzed by the fear of what the neighbors, the family, or the followers think. They stay in dead-end jobs, bad relationships, and boring lives because they want to stay popular with people who don't even like themselves. Imagine you're finally making a move that's best for your future. Maybe you're starting a business, cutting off toxic family members, or moving to a new city. The crowd will whisper, They'll call you selfish, cold, or arrogant. They'll try to shame you back into the herd because your growth makes them look at their own stagnation. If you flinch, if you try to convince them you're still a good person, you're finished. You've let them set the rules of your life. The way to handle this is to treat their opinions like the weather. It's just noise you can't control, so you stop trying. When someone tries to shame you, don't argue. Don't defend your character. Just look at them like they're speaking a language that died 1,000 years ago. Machiavelli knew that the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One of the biggest traps is the desire to be the nice guy. Nice guys get used. Respected men get paid. In the street, the person who is always looking around to see if people are watching is the one who gets targeted. The person who walks with their head up, focused on the destination and completely indifferent to the comments from the porch, is the one nobody messes with. This is your mental armor against the manipulation of the masses. When you stop looking for the thumbs up from the gallery, you become untouchable. You become the one who sets the standard, and suddenly you'll notice something strange. The same people who were judging you will start trying to copy you. Once you've stopped begging for a seat at their table, you'll notice the table starts to feel a lot emptier without you. But don't make the mistake of running back just because they noticed your silence. Most people feel a little bit of power and immediately go back to show it off, like a kid with a new watch. They want to rub their success in everyone's face. But true masters know that the most powerful thing you can do once you've gained respect is to disappear again. The world operates on supply and demand. If you are always there, the supply is high and your value is in the dirt. But the moment you vanish without an explanation, you create a crisis of value. People don't know what they have until the chair is empty. Here is how you use your shadow to control the room, even when you aren't in it. Use absence as a weapon. Machiavelli knew that too much familiarity breeds contempt. He understood that a leader who is seen every single day, doing the same mundane things, eventually becomes a joke. If you're always in the mix, your flaws become visible, your jokes get old, and your impact weakens. The most powerful people in history knew exactly when to pull the vanishing act. Think about a social group or a workplace where you're the one providing all the ideas, fixing all the problems, and keeping the energy high. Yet you still feel overlooked or disrespected. The problem is that you've become a utility, like the lights or the water. Nobody thanks the faucet until the water stops running. Instead of trying harder to fit in or fix the vibe by being more helpful, simply walk away for a while. Don't announce a break, don't post a social media detox status, and don't tell anyone where you're going. Just stop showing up. Stop responding. Stop being the solution to their boredom. While you're gone, the vacuum you left behind starts to ache. The people who took your energy for granted will realize they have to do the work themselves, and they'll suck at it. They'll start wondering where you are, what you're doing, and who you're doing it with. Their imagination will build a version of you that is much more powerful than the version that was always standing in front of them. Machiavelli noted that the vulgar are always taken by what a thing seems to be. By being absent, you allow them to imagine you are doing something legendary. In the streets, if you're on the block every day, you're just another face. If you disappear for a month and then roll back through in a clean car with your head held high, the energy shifts. People respect the mystery. This is your prestige play, to ensure that when you do return, you do so on your own terms. You aren't just another member of the crowd anymore. You are the guest of honor. This is the scarcity tactic that ensures your presence is treated like a reward, not a right. The final level of dark psychology isn't about attacking, it's about reflection. When you stop fighting and start mirroring, you become a ghost that they can't touch. You turn their own energy into a weapon that hits them before it ever reaches you. Here is how you use the mirror to stay untouchable while your enemies self-destruct. Suppose you have a boss or a friend who is belittling you to hide their own incompetence. They use a sharp, condescending tone to make you feel small. If you argue, you're the difficult one. If you cry, you're the weak one. But if you mirror their behavior, using their exact tone, their exact pacing, and their exact professional vocabulary back at them with a terrifyingly calm expression, they hit a brick wall. They see their own ugliness reflected in you. Because you aren't reacting with your own emotions, they have nothing to latch onto. They end up fighting their own reflection until they look like the crazy ones. If you found value in these Machiavellian secrets, hit that like button to signal the algorithm that you're moving up in the world. Subscribe and turn on those notifications if you want the daily blueprint on how to stay 5 steps ahead of the crowd. And remember, if you're truly done being the victim and you're ready to take what's yours, drop a comment with power below. I'm looking for the ones who are ready to master the silence. Stay cold, stay silent, stay in control. See you in the next one.